And then there were four. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back here on Third and Three. And tonight we are going to talk all about the playoff matchups between Alabama, Cincinnati, Michigan, and Georgia. We're also going to talk about all of the coaching carousel news. And then, of course, we're going to be joined right here on Third and Three by the very own Chris Lowe himself from ESPN.com. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we get you guys prepared and caught up on all things college football right here on the one and only show, the top show on the CTS right now, Third and Three. What's going on, my man? You doing okay, Tom?
I'm doing good. You got me muted, I think.
No, you good, man. We got you, man.
Oh, okay. It says the host has muted your mic, so I'm like, I don't know if I'm talking or not. I'm doing okay, Sting. I'm doing okay.
Dude,
It's Tuesday evening. I'm doing okay. I wish I had a defensive coordinator, but I'm doing fair to middling.
Awesome, man. Well, let me just go ahead and say this real quick, my man. We were out last week, obviously, because we had other issues to deal with. And so Third and Three was not as good last week. However, the stars are back, my friend.
No, yeah, we definitely are. I heard Joey's at a Christmas party. I am very surprised at that. Not only I'm surprised at a Christmas party, I'm surprised someone invited him to hang out. So.
Well, it's actually his wife's Christmas party, his wife's job's Christmas party. So
that makes more sense. Hopefully, someone gifts them some new blinds. But Joey, I know you're gonna watch this. I hope you're doing good, buddy.
Yes, sir. Well, dude, let me just go ahead and say this. It's called Third and Three for a reason. It's not just going to be me two or us two, man, because we actually have someone filling in for Joey tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, he is one of the stars of the other show that is right here on the CTS. It is the up-and-coming show, Rolling with the Tide. Ladies and gentlemen, the graduate of Alabama himself, Mr. Joe Will. Joe, thank you so much for taking the place of Joey tonight, my man.
Yeah, just when you thought the show couldn't get any uglier, they bring me on to fill in for Joey. But yeah, I'm happy to be on here. Always happy to talk sports and, spread that Alabama love after a big win this past weekend.
Are those beats by Dre?
They are. They're very old. I'm asking for new headphones for Christmas, so
gotcha. Can you name one Dr. Dre song?
Oh no. We're not off to a good start.
You can't name one Dr. Dre song?
I don't know. I don't listen to that kind of music, really. I just wear the headphones, man.
All right. Next time, can we get a different guest?
Yeah, we can try. But, hey, I really like, it was between him or Clack, so.
Tough choices.
How did you forget about Dre? Yeah, because every day is a Dre day. You know what I mean? I mean, he had 2 albums, Chronic 2001. No.
I'm a young buck.
Unbelievable.
Hey,
I just named 2 Dre songs and it just went.
All right, guys. So real quick, let's go back to college football. And since Joey is not here, Joe, I'm going to let you talk about the SEC and the SEC championship from this past weekend. Real quick, give us your thoughts on what happened and the beatdown in Atlanta, Georgia by the Crimson Tide over those Georgia Bulldogs.
Man, what a win for Alabama. I know I called it 41-24 win, big time win. That was sweet. It was even sweeter because all I heard about from the Blue Check Sports Media Brigade was that Bama was going to get blown out. They stood no chance at all. Every single one of those people, I want them to eat crow. Bryce Young, 26 for 44, 421 yards, 3 touchdowns, put a nail in the coffin for the Heisman voting against the quote-unquote best defense in football, who couldn't go 4 quarters with Alabama's offensive line. I mean, I don't know what they did to that offensive line, but God bless Doug Marrone and Bill O'Brien for figuring something out when it mattered, because they manhandled Jordan Davis. And I don't think – I mean, just watching the game, Georgia cannot get any pressure at all on Bryce Young. Awesome win from the Tide. Have a little bit, I think about a month, maybe less than a month to get healthy before they take on Cincinnati. I know JoJo Earl is one of those guys that could come back for that game. So I think this is a much-needed break for the team coming off a big-time win.
Yes. Well, dude, what are your thoughts on the next game, as we're going to talk about Cincinnati here in just a minute? But from the Alabama standpoint, how much of an impact is the loss of John Mechie going to have on that game, do you think?
Oh,
because
I think
now you're down to one explosive wide receiver.
I think it's huge. Obviously, Mechie struggles a little bit with drops, but you can't really replace his production at all. Yeah. Jameson Williams is the guy on the offense, but especially when you're going up against a team like Cincinnati that has Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant, and probably the best secondary, if well not one of the best secondaries in college football. It's going to be hard because they're just going to focus primarily on Jameson Williams. And so you're going to have, Slade Bolden or Ja'Cory Brooks. One of these younger guys is going to need to step up and not necessarily take Mechie's place, because I don't think that's fair to ask. But I think that, the targets might need to be his targets that he would have been getting need to be spread out more evenly. I think Jaleel Billingsley really needs to step up. He had a couple nice catches in the game, big time catch after Auburn win a couple weeks ago. So he needs to be a guy. He's kind of the forgotten guy because he was such a big part of their offense last year. So he really needs to step up. And then I think in order to win this game, they're going to need to be able to run the ball with Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders.
Joe Wheel getting a little love there from Spencer.
What's up, Spencer? Loyal Rolling with the Tide watcher.
Yes. I was thinking the same thing, Tom.
Well, what's that exactly? Sorry, I was muting myself while he was talking. What do you mean? What do you agree?
He was talking about the headphones, bro.
Oh, how do you seriously not know any Dr. Dre songs?
I'm more of an Eminem guy.
You're an Eminem guy and you don't know Dr. Dre?
I mean, I know who Dr. Dre is. I just can't name.
That's like saying I watch NBA basketball, but I don't know who Michael Jordan is. That's the equivalent of what you just said. No, I'm an NBA guy, but I don't know who Jordan is. Nah. I got his shoes, though. That's what you're telling me right now.
That's well, fair. Guys, let's go ahead real quick and talk about the first question that I have for you guys tonight is simply this. We just talked about it just briefly about the Cincinnati Bearcats becoming the first non-Power 5 school to make it into the 4-team playoff. Now, they have been really good against teams that they have faced. They went in and beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. But, guys, Notre Dame is not the type of talent that Michigan, Georgia, and Alabama has. My question to you guys is this. Can Cincinnati prove that they belong in the 4-team playoff, or is this going to be an embarrassing pick by the committee to put them in there in the championship playoff?
Gotcha.
Well, I think they've already proven that they deserve to be in the playoffs. It's tough with that last team because there's not a huge drop off between 4 through 6. So, I mean, I think they'll hold up for a little bit. But anytime you're going up against Nick Saban and Alabama with all the talent they have, it's going to be pretty tough for them. I think Desmond Ridder, has had a pretty solid year. But I think that Pete Golding and Saban are going to have a lot of things dialed up to confuse him and force him into throwing some throws that he shouldn't make. And I don't know. I think it's going to be tough for them, but I think they have proven this year that they should be in the playoff.
I think Desmond Ridder is the X factor in this game because he literally picked that team up and put them on his back in the win at Notre Dame. So if he plays well, I think they play well. If he does not play well, they will not win this game. Tom?
Man, honestly, I think Alabama's going to walk the field with them, to be 100% honest with you. When it comes down to it, I'm glad Cincinnati got in. I thought they deserved to win. Oh, in the chat, everyone's saying, "Oh, they haven't played anybody." They beat Notre Dame pretty
handily at Notre Dame too.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like it came down to the last second play and they got lucky. No, they walked the field with everything that they've done. They deserve to get in. I wish they had a shot at Georgia again. And even if you want to talk about it, they took Georgia down to the wire in the bowl game not too long ago. So we can even
last year too.
Yeah, it was last year. I mean, we can even talk about that. And they're like, "Oh, they don't belong. It's embarrassing." Tell that to Georgia, who was sweating bullets in the fourth quarter, wondering if they could lose to them. I mean, can they beat Alabama? I mean, sure, anyone's beatable any given day. But when it comes down to it, I mean, Alabama's third string could start at Cincinnati, and it's basically going to come down to endurance, coaching. You're not going to find a better coaching staff than Alabama, especially when you're looking across the field, at Cincinnati. But they could put a hell of a game plan together and do something. But
yes,
it's almost – I feel like it's the Little Giants versus the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
And which was a classic movie. I don't think Joe has seen it.
I have.
Yeah,
at some point, I've seen it.
Unbelievable. So that's basically what we're looking at. They could beat them. They got one shot.
Yes.
So don't waste it.
They have to play a perfect game.
Fan, so Mom Spaghetti over here. You got one shot. What are you going to do over there, 8 Mile? They could, man, but at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to Alabama's guys. They just have to be guys, man.
Yes. All right. Well, the next topic that we need to talk about is another team that is coming into the playoffs red hot, and it's not very often that I get to put the Michigan Go Blue shirt behind me. The Blues of Michigan come into this game after finally beating Ohio State and Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. Guys, that was a huge hurdle for Jim Harbaugh to get over there because he can't literally win the big game in the Big Ten. Now my question for you is this. Can Michigan win a big game outside of the Big Ten and upset what is a reeling Georgia team right now?
I'll go ahead and go because this is the game I got circled. I say yes. Something about Michigan this year, they seem to be able to put everything together. I was worried about them. I actually picked them in my weekly pick 'em against Ohio State because it was home and it just felt like it was their year. To watch them the following week, I'm like, okay, are they for real or are they going to have the hangover win that some teams do? After you pull out your rival, whatever it is. I mean, they're still celebrating at Ann Arbor right now on the field. There's kids on the field right now still celebrating. To watch how they went out there and still won that game for their conference championship.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be focused. I think it's almost like they got the monkey off their back, per se, by beating Ohio State and finally projected themselves to get a conference championship. And if you beat Ohio State, in my book, that's a win for America. Ohio State's up there with the worst team ever in college football. So, yeah,
Tom,
I'm picking what?
Can you please tell everybody what you call Ohio State, my friend?
There's a few, but I think the cry eyes, because they always whine. They're always crying about something. So I always call them the cry eyes or the suck eyes.
That's perfect.
But I absolutely despise Ohio State. I hate their fan base, everything about them. I'm sure they're good people at the end of the day, but I really do not like them. I started hating them when they didn't beat Miami on that pass interference play. You got a referee 80 yards the other way throwing a flag on a pass interference call. That was the guy had money on the game. Let's call it what it is.
Yes.
So I'm picking Michigan in this one. I think they do get past Georgia. And plus it's Kirby. Do we trust Kirby to finally win a big game? He hasn't done it yet. So
right. Joe, What about you, my man?
I agree with Clemson, Tom. I think that this has been Michigan's year. They have all the momentum. Even though they're not playing at home, I still think that those fans will show out well in the semis because, this could be the last time they get to play in the semifinals for a long time. I think matchup-wise, they match up pretty well with Georgia as far as physicality. You see those two running backs in that offensive line, what they did in the Iowa game and how they essentially dismantled Ohio State. So I do think Michigan will end up winning this game. I think Georgia has two choices, right? They can feel sorry for themselves or they can bounce back. And I think after, they're reading the newspaper clippings about how they're going to beat Alabama, I think it's going to be real tough for them to bounce back and win this game against a red-hot Michigan team. Yeah.
So what did you think real quick about the Joey's comment? Because obviously Joey is watching and is not at the Christmas holiday party, my man.
He's in the bathroom texting on his phone. Or
his wife doesn't even want to hang out with him at the Christmas party. Of course he's going to be watching the show.
He ate too many Christmas cookies. He's on the toilet.
He's a jabroni. And the chat is actually blowing up about Ohio State. Hurricanes fan 11. We need to trade Ohio State to Russia. We'll take Ukraine.
That's awesome, my man.
I would take that.
Let's send them. That's funny. I like that one.
So, any chance Dabo goes to Oregon? Answer his question, man.
There's a really good chance that Dabo goes to Oregon. It's been talked about quite a bit. I honestly think he does go to Oregon. I'll be dead serious. I'm not taking his bait at all. It's been something that's been, rumored on and everything else, and everyone knows, Dabo likes to go hiking. They've got great trails, up in Oregon, and maybe he likes the Northwest. I think it's going to be a great, vacation for him and his family, and they're talking about taking a vacation there. So yeah, I think it's weird that Joey knows that Dabo wants to take a vacation to Oregon because he enjoys trout fishing in the mountains and everything else. But yeah, I wish Dabo nothing but the best on his vacation to Oregon because he'll be there for about a week or two, and he's coming back to Clemson, as he should. But that is weird that Joey knows that Dabo wants to take a vacation to Oregon to go trout fishing.
Right.
That's about the only time Dabo's going to go to Oregon, Joey, you dummy.
All right. So, Tom.
Yep.
We're going to save this for the end of the show. However, we've got about 10 minutes before Chris Lowe joins us. So I want to go ahead and get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on the defensive coordinator down there at Clemson going to Oklahoma? Are you surprised by that? And how much of a problem is that going to be for Clemson moving forward?
No, am I surprised? No, I was not surprised. That's pretty much home for him. He was a defensive coordinator for Oregon forever. That's where he cut his teeth. He got away, grew a little bit as a coordinator. I think it was good for him. Sometimes you got to leave a place in order to grow, in order to get better, because if you just constantly see the same thing over and over, especially as from Stoops, you're not going to grow into, you're not going to be better. You're constantly seeing the same thing over and over. So I think him coming to Clemson, winning 2 national championships, which was awesome, having the best defense in the nation year after year after year, if not a top 3. I think it was awesome for him. I wish him nothing but success.
Yes.
When it popped open, I knew I was okay, this could be the time Brent leaves us. But he's turned down head coaching jobs numerous times. I'm happy for him. Sad to see him leave, obviously, but he's earned it. After you'll have some fans that are mad that he left, but all over social media, Clemson fans have done nothing but congratulate him, clap for him. I'm proud of him. I'm going to root for him. I will root for Oklahoma until I can't.
Yes.
So if I put money on a game, I need them to lose, or they play Clemson. But maybe now Oklahoma can finally beat Clemson for once. They haven't been able to beat us, so we shall see how that goes. But I'm pumped for him. Okay. I've gotten to meet Brent a few times, so I'm proud for him.
Well, moving forward, how does that hurt Clemson, and who do you feel like that they will go after?
It hurts us to an extent, especially when it comes to recruiting. We've already lost one recruit. For that, who knows? We'll lose a little bit more. You might have some guys going to the portal Madison guys went to the draft. We don't know about that yet. Looking forward, man, I don't know who we're going to go after. There's so many different avenues that we could go. It's just a matter of time before we make a decision. And honestly, him leaving and all this turmoil, it kind of makes it exciting again. It's been forever since we've had an opportunity to be like, we don't know what we're going to look like next year.
Yes.
This season wasn't our best. Now we had a new defensive coordinator. We might have a new offensive coordinator next year. Like we don't know. There's a lot that's up in the air, and it's kind of exciting, honestly. And the chat line is blowing up. Hang on. Someone just said something about Dabo going to Oregon. That'd be fun. There's too many Democrats in Oregon for him to go.
Guys, I want to apologize real quick. All of the chats, a lot of them are not coming up for some reason. I do apologize about that. I can actually show you real quick that we're missing a lot of the chats that are supposed to be coming in on the Facebook page. So I do apologize about that because we are only getting a couple of them, and all of them that are coming in right now are coming in from YouTube. So I want to apologize that your comments are not coming up. All right, guys, so we are super excited to bring on the guest for tonight. He is ESPN's own Chris Lowe, and he's going to talk to us about all of the coaching carousel that's out there and the matchups of the 4-team playoff. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Mr. Chris Lowe. Chris, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm well. It's good to be with you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us. And real quick, I want to get your thoughts. How surprised are you, Chris, that Brent Venables went on ahead and took the Oklahoma job?
I wasn't surprised. I mean, Brent had turned down a lot of jobs. Auburn last year.
Yes.
He'd had several opportunities and had been selective. I mean, some guys aren't, but he loved Clemson. He loved working for Dabo Swinney. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Oklahoma came open, one of the top, 6, 7, 8 jobs in America. He has obviously history with Oklahoma, had coached there with Bob Stoops, and, made a lot of sense. And I think this is the one he sort of had been waiting on.
Yes.
And it's a great opportunity for him. Brent is a great football coach, guys, but if you get to know Brent, he is an outstanding human being as well.
Yes. Tom?
Yeah, Chris. So thanks for breaking the news to me on Twitter. It hurt, but it's a fact. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you, man. He's a hell of a guy and even better. He's a better coach and even a hell of a guy. I've been dying to ask you this all day. Who do you see coming to Clemson as a defensive coordinator now?
I'll tell you, the guy to watch is right there. I think Wes Goodwin has a great chance to get that job. Now, I don't know how Dabo will structure it. We have co-coordinators, but, Goodwin's a guy that's highly respected, highly thought of. He was with Bruce Arians there in the NFL for a while, came back to Clemson, has been very instrumental in what they've done on defense. In fact, I think had Clemson not taken care of him and sort of promised him some type of role, and I do think he has a great chance to be the primary play caller on defense, I think he would have gone with Brent to Oklahoma in some capacity. But Dabo Swinney, look at him. He's an example himself of when you promote within, sometimes it comes up roses. And I think this is a guy that maybe he's not a household name across college football as far as being a proven defensive coordinator, but on that staff, within that staff and the players, there's a lot of respect for Wes Goodwin. So I think he's as strong a candidate, if not the leading candidate, to be that guy.
No, I got you. Now, kind of shifting gears, going to the offensive side, do you think Tony Elliott takes either the Virginia or the Duke job?
I think Anthony Poindexter is probably going to get the Virginia job. I think he's the leader in the clubhouse there. I don't know that Tony's still in that one. Duke, yes, he's definitely right there in the middle of the Duke job. I don't know, if he's the top guy or maybe even Tony is sort of trying to decide if that's what he wants to do. He turned Tennessee down last year. Mm-hmm. He's another guy who's been selective. I think South Carolina reached out to him as well. So the thing about Clemson, and Dabo has created his culture, is guys that are there like coaching. They like coaching in that environment. They like coaching with him. And why would you not? They've got great facilities. It's a great place to live, a great place to raise a family. They recruit great football players. But I think Tony is in it at Duke. We'll see how it all plays out. If he were to leave, if he were to get that job or go somewhere else, then I think once again, Dabo would look long and hard at promoting Brandon Streeter to offensive coordinator.
I've thought about that. I even thought about maybe making a phone call to Coastal Carolina and bringing over Willie Korn, who's done a great job, with the Chanticleers. I mean, there's so much up in the air now. It's like what you're saying. We've never had this much excitement in the offseason. It's always been playoffs, and then we know who we had coming back in, and it was always just churn and burn. So from a fan's perspective, it's kind of exciting, but also kind of get a little uneasy at the same time.
Well, and when you look at Clemson as example, they've sort of been the essence of stability, but everybody's a little different. Alabama it's been a revolving door. Coaches coming and leaving there, coordinators, assistant coaches, and they just keep on winning over and over again. And that's sort of what Nick Saban's done. And I think it always goes back to the top guy, and Saban has set a tone there. They talk about the process, the culture, whatever you want to call it. But even though coordinators come and go, the way they do things, their core beliefs and values, what he believes in, the way he runs his program, that's never changed. He does it a little bit differently than some people. Clemson, if you go watch Clemson practice for a couple of days and hang out with Dabo Swinney versus what they do at Alabama, they're different approaches. But the thing that is similar about both those places, and I think you can certainly include all the premier programs. You could say this about Ohio State. Certainly you could say it about what Kirby has created at Georgia, is the competition on the practice field at those places, because they all recruit so well. But that competition is what makes those places. Those guys get better. They go against the best every day. And sometimes when you get in the games, it's almost easy.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do you feel like, we have a viewer question right now, how do you think Dabo will handle the coaching turnover, especially since you mentioned that Coach Saban has had to do it time and time again?
Well, that'll be new for Dabo because he really hasn't faced this. No, he's lost some coaches. I mean, right. Dan Brooks, who was one of the better defensive line coaches in the country, retired a few years ago. So it's not like he hasn't had any turnover. But at the coordinator positions, it's been pretty stable. Now, he did lose Jeff Scott. That he and Tony had sort of shared that role a few years ago to South Florida as the head coach. So he's had some, but if he does indeed lose two coordinators, there's some transition there. But again, I think there's a good chance that you're promoting from within. So it's not like you're going outside and bringing in somebody else that the players don't know. They're going to put in brand new systems. If indeed that's the case, so I think that helps the transition. So he'll adjust. I mean, Dabo's strength is the way he connects with people and relates, and getting his guys to play hard. And that's been their calling card at Clemson, and I don't think that will change.
So there has obviously been 20, I think the number is up to 23 jobs that have come open and been replaced now in the offseason. Which one of those hires were you most surprised about?
Brian Kelly to LSU, because I didn't really see that as being a fit. And that doesn't mean he won't be successful. I mean, he's been successful at Notre Dame, but usually when you see jobs or transition like that, a coach leaving, I'll give you a great example. Mario Cristobal, for instance, he's out at Oregon. He goes home to Miami. That's his school. He played there. His mom's there. She's elderly. There's usually that type of reason. Or maybe someone feels like that they need to go somewhere else to really advance their career for a new challenge. And maybe that's what Brian Kelly wanted to do. But he'd been there at Notre Dame. He was so entrenched. They had played for championships. They'd been swimming in those waters. And, maybe he just felt like, I want to go somewhere else and see if I can win a championship there, because they'd been close at Notre Dame, but they hadn't done it. So now he gets a chance at what I think is one of the best 3 or 4 jobs in college football at LSU, because you're the school in that state. The Tigers are the NFL team in the state of Louisiana. Great talent base. You could go over to Houston and recruit. You got tradition. 3 different coaches have won national titles there in the last 18 years. So it can be done. Maybe he felt like at Notre Dame that they'd gotten there and they hadn't done it. So let me go somewhere where they have done it and see if I can continue to build on that legacy. Coaches Brian's age, sometimes when they've had a lot of success and they've done a lot of things, and maybe they've got one more chapter to write in their coaching career, sometimes look for new challenges. And maybe that's what happened this time with Brian Kelly. But I was not I wouldn't say I was flabbergasted, but I was surprised to see him leave Notre Dame and go to LSU, just simply because you didn't really think of Brian Kelly being a guy from the Northeast who'd been at Notre Dame for so long, all of a sudden jumping into the SEC.
Right. Well, we have another viewer question. Chris, do you think Cincinnati will be any kind of a threat to Alabama?
Yeah, I do, because, I mean, the last time Cincinnati lost a football game, and granted it wasn't a playoff game, but was last year in the Sugar Bowl to Georgia. And pretty much the same Georgia team we've seen run roughshod over everybody this year until they ran up against the Clemson Tide the other night. And Georgia beat them by a hair, a 50-some-yard field goal at the buzzer. That was a Georgia team. Most of those guys who are on that team are on this team. So I don't think Cincinnati will be intimidated. And no, they're not as talented across the board as Alabama. But there's 5, 6, 7 guys on that Cincinnati team that are draftable, that will get drafted or have a chance to play in the NFL. So it's not like they're devoid of talent. They've been a little bit, I wouldn't say inconsistent, but they've had games this year where they seem to play down to their competition. But I give them credit. I was up there a few weeks ago when they really had to turn it on here late to ensure that they were going to get in the playoff. They did. They played some of their best football against some of the better teams in their conference. And, oh, by the way, they did win by double digits at Notre Dame. So, yeah, I think they could certainly be in this football game. You know, Alabama's coming off, and you've got 3 weeks to get ready, I think helps. But they're coming off an incredible high. And as good as Saban is at getting his guys to focus week in and week out, when you play that well, your best game of the season against a team everybody was picking, you know, that wiped the field with you, sometimes you come off that, it's hard to sort of get back to where you need to be. That will be the biggest challenge for Alabama. But, no, I think that Cincinnati, you know, I think if you ask me to pick, I think Bama will win this game. But I don't necessarily think it's just going to be a blowout. Luke Fickell is a tremendous coach, and he'll have his guys ready to play. Those kids know. I spent about 2 or 3 days in Cincinnati back in, I guess it was early November. Those kids understand what the narrative is, that they don't belong, that nobody thinks that they could cut it in the ACC or the SEC or the Big Ten. This is a stage that they've been working to get on, and I promise you they'll be a motivated, prepared football team.
Yes. Well, Joe, what you got?
On your Twitter, I saw that you were surprised Will Anderson wasn't one of the 4 Heisman finalists. Why do you think the voters kept him out? Do you think there's Bama fatigue, or do you think there were other factors that influenced it?
You know, I vote in the Heisman. We're not supposed to unveil our votes until after they're announced. But I'll tell you this. I think maybe that having Bryce Young and Will Anderson among the top 5 or 6 players in the country, maybe they sort of stole each other's votes. And in this case, maybe Bryce stole some of Will Anderson's votes. And I don't mean, when I say steal, took some votes away from him. And some people maybe just, for whatever reason, don't want to vote for 2 guys on the same team in their top 3. You know, I never really look at it that way. If a guy's the best player, the second best player, I'm going to vote for him. I'll tell you this. I had a hard time this year. I voted for 20-plus years in the Heisman. There were, I don't know, 6 guys that you, maybe even 7, that you legitimately could make a case for. Quarterbacks, defensive players, running backs. It was a hard decision for me. And I went back and forth. I looked at stats. I looked at how guys played in key games. I looked at how consistent they were. And I always try to look at, all right, what would that team be like if that player wasn't playing for them? You know, would they be a championship caliber team? Would they lose a lot more games? And everybody sort of has their criteria for what they think the Heisman Trophy is. I've always looked at it really purely as the best player in the country. If I were taken based on that season, not on the last 2 seasons or what I think they're going to do in the pros, but based on that season, and if I had the number 1 pick in the country of all college football players based on the performance, who would I pick? And that's the way I always try to look at it.
Joe, you got anything else, man?
I have one more question. Is there a bowl game aside from the 2 main games that you're most excited to watch, or most intrigued by talent-wise?
I like the Mike Leach Bowl. Mississippi State against Texas Tech, going up against his old team. I don't know if I don't know if Mike Still is not the happiest camper in the world the way it ended for him at Texas Tech. So I think that's interesting. I think Ole Miss and Baylor in the Sugar Bowl. That's you've got sort of the Dave Aranda, just a tremendous defensive line against Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. I think that the caveat there is, I think Jeff Lebby, Ole Miss's offensive coordinator, is going to take the job at Oklahoma as offensive coordinator under Brent Venables. And I'm not sure Lebby will coach in that game. He might. But either way, certainly Lane Kiffin knows what he's doing on the offensive side of the football. Lebby's been the one that's called the plays. And Matt Corral's another one of those guys. You guys were asking me about the Heisman Trophy. What would Ole Miss be this year without Matt Corral? I mean, he's been so valuable to that football team. He's a lot of fun to watch play. So that's another game that I think has a chance to be a really fun game to watch play.
And I've got one final question for you, Chris. You obviously said that you liked Alabama in the one semifinal. Who do you have winning the other one between Michigan and the Georgia Bulldogs?
Michigan's, I think you can make a case that they're the hottest team in the country right now, the way they're playing. They're physical. I think they're a team that can match up with Georgia physically. I don't know if they got the same kind of speed that Georgia does. But you know what? That said, as you watch that Bama game the other night, there were times in that game that Georgia looked a step slow in the secondary. They really did. And we haven't seen that this year. But they did against some of those Bama receivers.
Yes.
And so we'll see if Michigan can take advantage of that secondary the way Alabama did. Can Michigan block Georgia the way Alabama did? Alabama looked like a completely different offensive line against Georgia than they did the week earlier against Auburn. I was at both of those games.
Yes.
So can Michigan sort of find a way to protect and make some big plays? See, as soundly as Bama beat Georgia the other night, to me, the most surprising thing was how many big plays they were able to make against that defense. That's the key. Nobody done that. Can Michigan do that? I don't know. I think there's a lot of pride in that Georgia program.
Yes.
They were hurt, really embarrassed the way that game went. I got a feeling they picked themselves up off the ground and play a much better football game. I do think it's got a chance to be a great game, but I think the Dogs will win this game. I just think they've got too much talent across their front seven on defense.
Yes.
And I think Stetson Bennett will come back and play a lot better than he did the other night.
Well, Chris, look, we really want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And as always, I'm going to pull you up full screen. Please let everybody know where they can follow you on social media, and feel free, please, to plug anything that you would like to from ESPN.com or anything like that.
No, it's good to be with you guys. You can catch me on Twitter at CeeLo ESPN, and we'll have a lot of stuff looking forward to the bowl games. And we're going to do something here in the next week on sort of the best moments this year in college football. And boy, there were a lot of them. So good to catch up, guys. I look forward to what should be a really fun bowl and playoff season.
Absolutely. Well, man, we really do appreciate your time, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you, sir.
Merry Christmas to you guys too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay. Well, guys, like I said, we really want to thank Chris Lowe for joining us tonight. That was an awesome interview and some
a lot of good insights.
So,
absolutely.
Well, guys, real quick before we go, that we always like to pick a game. There is one game this weekend on the docket in college football, and I'm going to go on ahead and call it right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it has now become America's game. It is Army versus Navy. Guys, who do you like? The Navy midshipmen or the cadets of Army?
Army.
I agree. Army as well.
Now, let me say this. Army is coming into this game at 8-3. Navy is having a bad year at 3-8, but this is a rivalry game. Throw everything out the window, but I do also like Army in this game. So we all are going with the Army. cadets over the Navy midshipmen. So, guys, real quick, I'm going to turn it over now before we get out of here to my other guest co-host over there, because he is the co-host of that show right down there. Go ahead, Joe Will, and tell us what we can expect in 2 nights when you guys take over the CTS on Rolling with the Tide.
Yeah, so obviously it says right there, Rolling with the Tide every Thursday. We're a newer show, but we're kind of trying to get the ball rolling. Thursdays are fun. I'm sure there'll be a lot of fireworks this week between my co-host Joey and my other co-host Josh Clacker, because Clack didn't think we stood a chance against Georgia, and there's been a lot of back and forth with him. Joey saying I was right and Clack getting upset. So that's always fun. I just kind of sit there and watch those two go at it and throw little cherry bombs in. But yep, it's always a great show. I'm not sure yet who we're going to have on there. I think we're still working out the kinks with that. But for those of you who haven't gotten the chance to watch, you definitely should. It's a lot of fun. So, and thank you guys for allowing me to fill in for Joey tonight too.
Yes. Well, dude, and let me also just go ahead and say this. We are no longer pre-recorded shows on the CTS. Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, we are coming to you live on live. And here's where we are coming to you live from. We are on the CTS interview room on Facebook. We are also on the Twitter or the YouTube page as well. It is called the CTS interview room. And we are also on Twitter on both 3rd and 3 2021. And then, of course, right down there, Roll with the Tide on Twitter. So that's where you can find us on the CTS interview room. Guys, we really want to thank all of you for watching this show. And before we get out of here, Tom or Joe Will, do y'all have anything else y'all would like to add to the viewers tonight?
I would, since Joe has Beats by Dre and can't name one Dr. Dre song, I just want you to know, buddy, it's still Dre Day. I don't care what year it is. It's still Dre Day. That's it. That's the tweet.
Joe, you got anything, man?
I got some research to do, man. I'm making myself look silly. See, I know some of these songs. I'm just terrible at naming songs. So that's my excuse.
I thought it was the edited version, man. My bad.
You're good, bro. You're good. All right, guys.
I'm like,
dude, you're good, man. All right. On that note, we will see you guys on 3rd and 3 next Tuesday. However, make sure, once again, at 7 o'clock Central, 8 Eastern, you tune in once again on Thursday night right here on Facebook, Twitter, and or YouTube to check out Joe Will, Josh Clacker, and, of course, my buddy Joey on Rolling with the Tide. We will see you guys right back here for another episode next week right here on 3rd and 3.